Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Shit I Make My Family Watch, a podcast where I make my family and friends watch crappy horror and sci-fi movies so you don't have to. I'm your host, Desiree, and I have a special guest with me today, the man who sits through all my shitty movie shenanigans, my husband, Blaine. Say hi, Blaine.
Hello, Blaine.
In this show, I will give you a rundown of the storyline of this piece of crap as best I can, and then rate these movies on my very own shit scale, which is a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being only a little shitty, and 5 being the worst pile of crap I've ever seen in my life. This week's pile of crap is Dark Descent, released in 2002 and starring Dean Cain. This movie can be found on Amazon Prime. I will now spoil the shit out of this for you, so if you want to watch it for yourself, you need to stop listening now. You have like 5 seconds. Dark Descent, starring Dean Cain, playing Marshal Will Murdoch, who is stationed at an underwater mining facility. We start off with him breaking up a fight between a group of Russians on the brothel level of the underground facility, which turns into a hostage situation and they snap one of the girls' necks. He injures and disarms them and sends them to jail. Vlad, who is the leader of the group, says that the marshal had better just kill him because if he lives, he's going to come back to get his revenge. And already there are too many guns going off in this pressurized facility to make any sort of sense. Cut to a few years later, and the marshal and his partner, who's kind of a wiener, are heading somewhere in one of the mag trains, which I assume means magnet train, and talking about the marshal's assignment being almost done. The wiener pauses in the tube, saying he forgot his card in the bar they were passing, and hops out, leaving the marshal inside, which is where we discover that he is apparently claustrophobic, because he starts getting, he panting and then tries to get out of the door. And then as soon as he gets out, he ends up at his own surprise party, which only had one party blower blowing over and over and over again. And this is when we see the partner, who is a wiener, and his girlfriend, who is making really big eyes at the marshal and is clearly in love with him, kind of pushing away from the partner and not paying him any sort of attention. We jump ahead to the marshal and his partner investigating a suicide of what would be the 9th in the last month. This person took off his helmet underwater, which is one of the few times they reference the pressure of being down that deep because it shows his head popping like a grape from far away. The marshal goes to talk to the psychiatrist about the medication the workers are taking to help them with the side effects of the uranium they are mining, and he says that it doesn't have any side effects, but that suicides happen in clusters. Then we cut over to a scene with the partner in bed with his girlfriend in the middle of the action, but he stops to talk about how the marshal is jealous of him, and that's why he didn't get recommended for a promotion. And it gets really weird, and then she gets upset and tells him to leave, and then they break up. Then we cut back over to the marshal getting a call from a cop friend saying that the Russian mafia guys he had put away a few years ago were being released for no evidence, and we're heading back to him in the underground facility for revenge. Then cue everyone trying to get him to leave, and you get the sense that most people actually don't like him. A miner starts hallucinating these shiny rainbow rockworms and then heads back to his bunk with a drill, jackhammer sort of tool, and then blasts a hole in the pressurized wall, immediately killing every single person inside and activating the saltwater automatic door that seals off the room, protecting the rest of the facility, but not before it shoots a pressurized blast of water out of the iris and through a dude's chest, which was probably the coolest part of the entire movie. The marshal and his partner get in an argument and decide that they aren't friends anymore, and then the partner quits. Then the marshal starts trying to hand out badges and access cards willy-nilly, but there's only like one person who wants to take it and be his little deputy. And so the marshal goes back to the psychiatrist to ask about the pills again, and then he starts talking about his dreams of being in the car with his wife and child while they die after being hit by a drunk driver. The psychiatrist says that he's feeling guilty and that's why he's claustrophobic, But it was revealed that he's cheating with the partner's girlfriend that we saw making eyes at him in the beginning. He was doing that when he got the news about his family being killed. So I'm not sure how the claustrophobia and the vehicular homicide connect. The marshal sees a security video with the Russian guys being waved through security, even though they could see a weapon on the screen in the suitcase, sort of. And people inside the underwater mining facility are making bets on who is going to win in this epic showdown between Vlad and his Russian mafia friends and the marshal. And this is where the marshal's behavior starts to get really aggressive and like super patronizing. And he goes into some bar and starts punching people and throwing stuff around, and then kind of gets butthurt that nobody wants to help him against these mafia guys coming back. And then all of a sudden he discovers that all of the suicide victims' medications are missing. And he goes back to the psychiatrist and starts breaking all of his stuff and beating him until he confesses that he's been experimenting with larger doses of the Xyloban, which is the medication that the workers take to counteract the effects of the moranium. And he was thinking giving them larger doses would help them be able to dig longer, I think. And that he was expecting some episodes of psychosis, but they were trying to get more time out of each miner in the facility. The mafia guys and Vlad arrive, revealing that they are actually working for the corporate headquarters. And they go to the psychiatrist and demand all of the Xyloban experiment info from him, and then blow him and all the computers away with automatic weapons in this underwater pressurized facility. The marshal then goes to what I believe to be the engineering room and asks them how to... He looks at this big sea stack out the window that they have in the engineering room and is like, what's that? And then the man just tells him that's essentially the nuclear cooling system. And then he's like, great, how do we not have that there anymore? And then he tells him how to destroy it and turn the whole facility into a bomb, basically, just because he asked. And so immediately he does it because he's going to make everyone evacuate the facility so that it will keep them safe while he's fighting all of these Russian guys. And then he takes the guy's contact solution and then makes him leave too. They begin their battle as everyone's evacuating the facility, and the marshal uses the saline solution to activate one of the automatic doors to block some bullets. And then there's 20 minutes of train tube walking. But remember this, he's claustrophobic, so he's having a hard time walking in this train tunnel. And then he's battling the biggest of the Russian guys, and a train is coming, and they both get stuck to the wall because of the magnet and their guns. But also their bodies are stuck to the wall for a while, which doesn't make sense because eventually they're able to get off. And the train comes and splats the big Russian guy, and he ducks into a doorway at the last minute. And then, luckily, just at that very moment, the lady that he was cheating on his wife with opens the door and saves him. And then they keep having his boss call him and tell him in the middle of all the fight scenes that he needs to leave. And he keeps going, I'm kind of busy. And then he convinces her to get on the last escape pod, which, of course, leaves without him. And the bad guy ends up not being dead a few times. And so they end up battling more. And then he gives a weak sort of half-hearted attempt to reverse the thing that he did to the facility to make it turn into a bomb. And it doesn't work. So he's like, oh, that's fine. And he just puts one of the suits on and locks Vlad in a room and then yeets himself out of there. And then the whole facility explodes. So unfortunately, he doesn't die. He gets picked up by some cop friends. And that's the end, because he destroyed all the evidence of wrongdoing from the corporation. But that part doesn't matter because he killed the one mafia guy who he had beef with. So I would summarize this movie by saying it's about an asshole cop who destroys all evidence of corporate shenanigans. How would you describe this?
Not one of Dean Cain's finer moments.
He was no Superman in this movie. He was kind of a dick. I was excited to watch this originally because I think Dean Cain was good on that stupid Superman show. I liked that one. And it was underwater. Like, you have a lot you can work with in an underwater movie. The cover looked cool. They were all in the suits, but you really only saw people in the suits like three times, I think. And all the references to the cool mining they were doing or what the facility was for or like the weird rainbow worms that they kept seeing. Or I guess they were hallucinations, but you didn't get any more of that than one quick scene. All in all, I'd rate this movie 2.5 out of 5 shits because at least it was only 80 minutes long and was a lot easier to follow than last week's movie, Resurrection. I think Dean Cain is an asshole in this and he is not likable, and I did not want him to live. I wanted him to get cut in half by one of those water-activated doors, and he did not, so 2.5 piles of shit it is. Blaine, how do you rate this movie?
Oh man, it was like a 4 shits.
It was a 4 out of 5 piles of shit.
You've made me watch a lot of shitty things, and I had a really hard time trying to just stay on that one.
I don't think you were on it. You were putting together gardening equipment.
That was more entertaining than the movie.
So 4 out of 5 piles of shit. That means it is close to the worst thing you've ever seen in your life.
I've watched a lot of 4s. I've watched
Okay, so somewhere between 2.5 and 4 piles of shit is the rating for this week's movie. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode's piece of shit or take your recommendations for a future episode. So please email me at simmfw@gmail.com. Here are a few things I've been imbibing this week that are not a piece of shit. This week I am arc reading To Hunt Wraiths by Thomas Stewart. And I don't think I watched anything this week that was not a piece of crap. Blaine, is there anything you have been taking in this week that was not shit?
Mariners baseball. Go M's.
Okay, so that's it. It was a pretty shitty week. Please follow us on Instagram at SIMMFW Podcast. And please go out and watch shitty movies so that we can talk about them together. Bye!